The elevator climbed in silence. Isabella Cole stood inside the mirrored box with her daughter strapped against her chest. 40 floors up. The numbers glowed one by one. Her heartbeat felt louder than the hum of the cables. Little Lily slept with her cheek pressed against Isabella's collarbone, warm breath soaking through the thin cotton of her blouse. Isabella adjusted the baby carrier and stared at her reflection in the steel doors. She looked steady, strong, and like a woman who had not once broken down alone in a hospital room with no hand to hold. The doors slid open, and at the end of the hallway waited the office that once belonged to her marriage. She walked past the assistant before the woman could finish saying, "He's in a meeting." Isabella did not slow down. Her flat shoes moved across the polished floor with quiet purpose. She had been here before, dozens of times, back when she believed this building was part of her future. As she pushed the double doors open, the room fell silent. Daniel Whitmore stood behind his wide oak desk, sleeves perfect, tie straight, dark hair brushed back like the cover of a business magazine. Sunlight poured in through the floor-to-ceiling windows behind him, turning the skyline into a bright blur. Perched on the edge of his desk was a woman Isabella recognized from society pages, Victoria Lang. Red dress, diamond ring, one elegant leg crossed over the other. As Victoria had been laughing, she stopped. Daniel's eyes moved to Isabella's face first, then to the baby carrier. His expression cracked. Isabella stepped forward. Calm, controlled. She placed a leather folder on his desk. The divorce papers were already signed, every page, every line. "I assumed you'd have your copies ready," she said. Her voice did not shake. Victoria slid off the desk, slowly. The diamond on her finger caught the light like something sharp. Daniel moved around the desk. "Isabella." She took one small step back. Not from fear, from clarity. Lily stirred. The tiny sound filled the room. Daniel's gaze dropped to the baby. Something inside him shifted so fast it was almost painful to watch. The confident CEO mask vanished. What stood in its place was a man who did not understand what he was seeing. "Is that—" His voice broke. "Yes," Isabella said evenly. Her name is Lily." Silence stretched across the office like glass about to crack. "She's yours." Victoria's hand covered her mouth. Her eyes moved between them with quick intelligence, reading the truth before anyone confirmed it. Daniel stared at the baby carrier as if the world had tilted. "How?" he whispered. "When?" Isabella did not blink. 11 months ago," she said, "I came home with news." Her fingers tightened around the strap of the carrier. The memory rose sharp and cold. And she had walked into their penthouse holding a pregnancy test in her shaking hand. Her heart had been so full it scared her. She had imagined his face lighting up. She had imagined him pulling her into his arms. Instead, she had found him on the couch, a bottle of bourbon half empty on the table, his eyes distant, angry at something she had not caused. She had said his name. He had not looked at her. She had told him she had something important to share. He had laughed, not kindly, and then he had told her to leave. He had said she exhausted him, that she added nothing to his life, that he never wanted to see her face again. Isabella looked at him now with steady eyes. "So I did," she said. Daniel's shoulders dropped like something heavy had fallen onto them. "I sat in the parking garage for 2 hours. She continued quietly. "Then I drove myself to urgent care because I was scared the stress had hurt the baby." Victoria lowered her hand slowly. The diamond felt out of place in the room now. "I moved out the next morning," Isabella said. "You were asleep." She had found a small apartment across the river. She had worked double shifts managing the restaurant where she had started as a waitress at 19. She had taken birthing classes alone, sat beside couples who held hands and kissed during contractions on the practice videos. She had not cried in public once. I gave birth on a Tuesday, she said. Now, my best friend Ava flew in and held my hand. Daniel's eyes were wet now. He did not wipe them. I didn't tell you, Isabella finished, because you were clear. Victoria's voice came soft and stripped of polish. Did you really tell her to leave? Daniel did not answer her. He was staring at Lily like she was something holy and fragile. Isabella slid the folder closer to him. I'm not here for money, she said, or the apartment, or anything that carries your name. Lily made a small sighing sound in her sleep. I'm here because someday she deserves the truth. Daniel reached forward instinctively. Isabella stepped back again. Don't, she said. The word held no anger, only boundary. He stopped immediately. I didn't know, he said hoarsely. I know, Isabella replied. The air inside the office felt too thin. Daniel looked at the unsigned papers, then at Victoria, then back at Isabella. Yeah, I was angry that night, he said. I didn't mean... You meant it, Isabella interrupted calmly. You said it. Victoria slowly slid the diamond ring off her finger. She placed it on the desk without looking at Daniel. The sound of metal against wood was louder than it should have been. Isabella uncapped her pen and signed the final page in front of him. The scratch of ink across the paper sounded final, clean. She closed the folder. Daniel said her name again, and this time it sounded like a plea. Please. It cracked apart in the air. For 1 second, she almost turned around, but she didn't. She adjusted Lily against her chest and walked toward the door. Each step steady, each breath controlled. Behind her, Daniel Whitmore stood in a room filled with glass and sunlight, and more money than most men would see in a lifetime. And none of it could change the fact that he had sent his pregnant wife away. The elevator ride down felt longer, and Isabella looked at her daughter's sleeping face, round cheeks, dark lashes resting against soft brown skin. She pressed a kiss to Lily's forehead. We're okay, she whispered. The doors opened to the lobby. Cool air, marble floors, fresh flowers arranged like perfection. She stepped out into the street. The city moved around her, loud, indifferent, alive. For the first time in almost a year, she felt something unexpected rise inside her chest. Not anger, not grief, relief. Above her, 40 floors up, Daniel Whitmore was finally learning the size of what he had thrown away, and Isabella Cole was walking forward with everything he had never stayed long enough to see. The days after Isabella walked out of Whitmore Global felt quiet, in the way a city feels after a siren passes. Not peaceful, just hollowed out. She carried Lily up the narrow stairs to their third-floor apartment in a brick building on the edge of the river. The hallway smelled like laundry soap and old wood. Inside, the place was small but warm. A yellow lamp in the corner, a second-hand couch, baby bottles drying on a towel by the sink. Isabella laid Lily in her crib and watched her tiny chest rise and fall, then slid down onto the kitchen floor with her back against the cabinet. She set a timer on her phone. 10 minutes. She let herself feel everything, her throat tight, her eyes burning, her hands shaking so hard she pressed them flat to the tile. She did not scream. She did not sob loudly. She just let tears fall in silence until the timer went off. Then she wiped her face, stood up, and made tea like a person who still had a life to run. That evening, Ava called. Ava had been Isabella's best friend since they were 16, the kind of friend who showed up without being asked and stayed until the air felt safe again. She had moved into Isabella's spare room the week Lily was born and never acted like she was doing a favor. She acted like it was obvious. Isabella told her what happened in Daniel's office. She kept her voice flat, factual, like she was explaining an incident at work. Ava listened without interrupting. When Isabella finished, Ava only said, "I'm proud of you." Isabella held on to those words, the way you hold onto a railing in the dark. On the third morning, Daniel tried calling. His name appeared on her phone screen. Her stomach clenched. She watched it ring until it stopped. 10 minutes later, it rang again. She turned the phone face down and kept folding Lily's tiny onesies. On the fourth day, she sent one message. Any communication would go through her lawyer. Any direct contact would be considered harassment. And when she hit send, she did not feel powerful. She felt tired, bone tired. The kind of tired that sleep does not fix. She did not expect the knock that came on Saturday. Isabella was on the living room floor with Lily on a soft blanket between her knees. She was making ridiculous faces, trying to earn one of Lily's rare smiles. Lily stared at her with deep seriousness, as if judging the quality of the entertainment. Then the knock came again, and Isabella checked the peephole and went very still. On the other side stood Victoria Lang. No red dress, no glossy hair styled for cameras. She wore simple cream pants and a pale blue sweater. She looked smaller outside the world of glass towers and parties. Her left hand was bare. No diamond. Isabella opened the door only halfway. "What do you want?" she asked. Victoria's eyes flicked toward the baby sounds inside, then back to Isabella's face. "I'm not here to defend him," Victoria said. And her voice was quiet and steady. "And I'm not here to ask for anything." Isabella studied her for a long moment. Victoria swallowed. I need to understand what I was standing in without knowing it." Isabella opened the door the rest of the way and stepped aside. They sat at Isabella's small kitchen table. Lily lay on the blanket in the next room, waving her hands like she was conducting invisible music. Isabella did not offer tea. She did not offer warmth. She simply waited, and Victoria spoke carefully, like a person walking across thin ice. "I've been with Daniel for 14 months, she said. "He never talked about you much, but when he did, it slipped out in small pieces." Isabella kept her face still. Victoria continued, "A restaurant you loved. A song that came on and he went quiet. A certain way you organized your kitchen drawers." She gave a short, humorless breath. "He always stopped himself and apologized." "For what?" Isabella asked. Victoria's eyes lifted. "For remembering you." Silence sat between them. Victoria's gaze drifted toward Lily. "When I saw you in his office, I realized I wasn't engaged to a man who was fully here." Her voice tightened. "I was with someone who had a locked room inside him, and I was trying to live with the door shut." Isabella felt something unexpected. Not pity, not friendship, just recognition. Two women, same wreckage, different seats. Victoria looked back at her. "And I wanted to meet the real you, not the wife, not the woman holding his baby. Just you." Isabella breathed in slowly. Then she told her. She told Victoria about starting at the Riverstone Cafe when she was 19, clearing plates and learning how to smile at customers who treated her like furniture. She told her about earning a promotion every year until she ran the place. She told her about the night Daniel first walked in. It had been a company dinner event. Daniel's board members loud and sharp. One had snapped at a server and made a rude comment. Daniel had stayed after the room emptied and apologized to the staff. Not to impress anyone, just because he saw them. That was the man Isabella had fallen for. She told Victoria about the 2 years of dating that felt like building something real. Their wedding that was small because Isabella did not come from money, and Daniel insisted he did not want a spectacle. And she told her about the first year of marriage that was good, not perfect but warm. Then the second year, when Daniel started coming home late with eyes that looked through her instead of at her. Then the third year, when the drinking began, the silent moods. the way he would snap like a wire under tension. Victoria did not look away once. "I don't hate him," Isabella said finally. Victoria's eyebrows lifted slightly. "Hate takes energy," Isabella said. "I'd rather spend it on Lily." Victoria nodded slowly, like she understood. "I'm sorry," Victoria said. Not in a showy way, not like she was trying to make herself feel better. She said it like a clean truth. Isabella accepted it in the same spirit. When Victoria stood to leave, she paused by the living room doorway and looked down at Lily. Lily blinked up at her with wide, dark eyes. Victoria's mouth softened. "She's extraordinary." Isabella looked at her daughter. She is." Victoria hesitated. "I can see both of you in her," she said quietly. "The softness and the shape of his jaw." Isabella did not respond, but the words landed, sharp and strange. After Victoria left, Isabella leaned against the closed door and let out a breath she did not know she'd been holding. Ava walked in from the hallway with a basket of laundry. She took one look at Isabella's face. "Who was that?" Ava asked. Isabella stared at the door for a long moment. A ghost," she said. "Coming to say goodbye." Ava set the laundry down slowly. "Is it over?" Isabella looked at Lily, who kicked her little legs like she was swimming in air. "I think the haunting is changing," Isabella said. It changed again the next day. Ava was on the couch with Lily when the knock came at exactly 1 o'clock, the time Isabella's lawyer had agreed to for any contact. Isabella's stomach tightened. Ava went to the door first. She opened it a crack, the eyes sharp like a guard dog. Daniel Whitmore stood in the hallway. No suit, no tie, just jeans and a plain gray shirt. His hands were empty. No flowers, no gift bag, no dramatic gesture. He looked like he had not slept. Ava didn't move aside. "Rules," she said. Daniel nodded once. "I'm here for the visit. 2 hours." Ava repeated every rule anyway. No photos, no social media, no sharing Isabella's address, no arriving early, no arriving late, no stepping outside the agreed boundaries. Now Daniel listened without interrupting. He didn't argue. He didn't try to charm his way around anything. When Ava finally opened the door fully, Daniel stepped inside carefully, like he knew he didn't deserve the space. Isabella sat on the couch with Lily in her lap. Lily was awake, her small fists flexing like she was testing the world. Daniel saw her and froze. His shoulders dropped. His jaw loosened. His whole body changed. He crossed the room and crouched slowly to Lily's level, like he was approaching something sacred. Lily stared at him with a serious little face. Daniel whispered, "Hi." His voice was rough. Isabella spoke like a manager training new staff. Calm, direct. "One hand behind her head," she said. One under her back." Daniel nodded. He followed her instructions with careful focus. His hands trembled slightly as he lifted Lily. When Lily settled against his chest without crying, Daniel let out a breath that seemed to come from deep inside him, like he had been holding it for months. He didn't speak to Isabella beyond what was needed. He didn't apologize. He didn't explain. And he just sat in the chair across the room and held his daughter while Ava watched from the corner and Isabella watched from the couch. He held Lily like she was the most important thing he had ever been trusted with. Because she was. The visits continued every Sunday, always on time, always calm, always quiet. Isabella watched Daniel become more natural with Lily, the stiffness slowly easing, his hands learning her, his voice turning softer without him trying. Each week, Isabella felt her own distance shift in ways that scared her. On the 4th Sunday, Lily smiled at him. Not a reflex, not a random twitch, a real smile. Daniel made a sound Isabella had never heard from him before. Something caught between a laugh and a sob. He swallowed it and pressed his lips to the top of Lily's head. Isabella looked away fast and told herself it meant nothing. On the sixth Sunday, Daniel arrived 5 minutes early. Isabella opened the door with the chain still on. "I'll come back at 1, she said. Daniel blinked, then nodded. "Okay." He stepped back into the hallway and stared at his shoes until the minute hand hit the correct time. He didn't complain. He didn't roll his eyes. He simply waited. Ava raised her eyebrows at Isabella when the door closed. "It doesn't mean anything," Isabella said too quickly. Ava just gave her a look. What changed the air between them wasn't a big speech. It was a message on a Wednesday evening. Daniel texted from his personal number. He said he had turned down a partnership deal in London because the signing would require travel on Sunday. He said he wasn't telling her to earn credit. He said he just wanted her to know the visit would happen as scheduled. Isabella read the message 3 times. Then she set the phone down and walked to Lily's room. The small nursery smelled like baby lotion and clean sheets. Lily slept under a soft blanket, cheeks round and peaceful. Isabella stood in the doorway and felt something pull in her chest. A tug she wasn't ready to name. She picked up her phone. She typed 2 words. "Thank you." She stared at them for a long moment. Then she sent it. And the next Sunday, when Daniel stepped inside, Lily reached for him the moment she saw him. Isabella's throat tightened. Because babies didn't perform trust. They either felt it, or they didn't. And Lily was choosing him with both hands. Isabella tried to keep her face still, tried to keep her heart behind its wall. But the wall was shrinking, and she could feel it happening, one quiet Sunday at a time. That Sunday, Daniel held Lily close and looked up at Isabella like he was about to say something he had been carrying for weeks. Isabella's fingers tightened around her mug. Ava noticed too, her eyes narrowing slightly, ready to step in if needed. Daniel swallowed. Then he said in a voice low and careful, "Now, can I tell you something? Without you thinking I'm asking for anything?" Isabella didn't answer right away, but she didn't say no. And that was the first crack in the silence between them. Isabella did not move from the couch. Daniel sat across the room with Lily against his chest. Lily's tiny fingers clutched his shirt like she owned the fabric. Ava stayed near the doorway, arms folded, watching Daniel the way you watch a dog you are not sure you can trust yet. Daniel kept his voice low. "I started seeing a therapist," he said. Isabella's face stayed calm, but her stomach tightened. "A week after you came to my office," Daniel added, "I didn't do it to impress you. I did it because I couldn't breathe inside my own life anymore." Lily made a small cooing sound, then settled again. Daniel swallowed. "His name is Dr. Bennett. He asks questions that take days to answer." Isabella said nothing. She did not nod. She did not encourage him. She simply listened. Daniel stared at Lily's hair like he was afraid to look directly at Isabella. "He asked me about my father." Isabella's eyes flicked to his face for a second, then back to Lily. Daniel's voice tightened. "I spent the first 2 sessions saying it didn't matter, that I was fine, that it had nothing to do with how I treated you." Ava let out a slow breath through her nose, but she stayed quiet. Daniel's hands tightened around Lily, careful not to squeeze. "Then I finally said the truth. It had everything to do with it." The room was still, except for the soft sounds of Lily breathing. Daniel's gaze lifted to Isabella for the first time. His eyes looked raw, not polished, not rehearsed. "I learned something," he said. "A man who was never taught how to stay will find reasons to leave first, or he will push people away before they can leave him. He will break the thing he wants because wanting feels like danger." Isabella's throat tightened. She swallowed it down. Daniel kept going. "That night you came home, I was already drowning. I had been drinking. I was angry. I was scared. And I aimed all of it at you." His voice cracked. "And I said things that should never be said to someone you love." Isabella's fingers curled around the mug in her hands. Daniel shook his head once. "None of that excuses it. It just explains it. And you deserve better than my silence. You deserve the truth." Isabella stared at Lily chewing on the edge of Daniel's shirt. Lily was calm, content, like she knew exactly where she belonged. "I knew about your father," Isabella said finally. Daniel's shoulders lifted slightly, not like he had not expected her to speak. "I knew you carried something," she continued. "Even when you were kind, even when you were trying, there was always a part of you that treated love like a threat." Daniel looked down. His jaw worked as if he was holding back words. Isabella breathed in, slow, controlled. "I loved you anyway," she said. "And I can't tell if that was brave or foolish. It depends on how this ends." Ava's eyes softened for a moment, but she still didn't move, and Isabella kept her voice steady. "But I need you to understand something. The woman who walked into your office with divorce papers and a baby on her chest is not the same woman who walked out of our apartment that night." Daniel nodded once, carefully. "I rebuilt myself," Isabella said, "from the inside out. I learned how to do everything alone. I learned what it feels like to be strong without anyone cheering for you." Her voice didn't rise, but it carried weight. "And so if there is ever a future," she said, "it will not look like the past." Daniel's eyes stayed on hers. "I understand," he said quietly. "I'm not asking for the past back." He looked at Lily. The past had cracks all the way through it. Then he lifted Lily's tiny hand and kissed her knuckles like it mattered more than words. "The only thing worth taking from it," he said, "is her." Isabella felt something shift in her chest. Not forgiveness, not trust, but movement, and like a locked door that finally loosened. She stared at Lily for a long moment, then nodded once. "I'm not ready to call anything by big words," Isabella said. "Not trust, not together, not forever." Daniel waited. Still, like he had learned that rushing was another form of disrespect. "What I am willing to do," Isabella said, "is stop pretending I feel nothing, and stop treating the distance between us like a permanent wall." Daniel's breath caught. He didn't reach for her hand, and he didn't step closer. He simply nodded, like a man receiving something he did not deserve, but would protect anyway. "That's more than I have any right to ask for," he said. Ava finally moved. She stepped into the room, looked at Isabella, and didn't say a single word. But the look on her face said, "I see you. I'm here. And I'm not leaving." The weeks after that were not a fairy tale. They were not perfect. They were real. Daniel kept coming every Sunday, always on time, always steady, but the visits changed in texture. They felt less like a courtroom and more like life trying to form again. Ava still stayed, because Isabella was not ready to remove that layer of safety. Daniel never complained. He never made Ava the enemy. He treated her like a boundary that Isabella needed, and he respected it. One Sunday, Lily fell asleep on Daniel's chest. Isabella stood in the doorway watching him in the chair. His head leaned back, his eyes closed, and his hand rested on Lily's back with quiet protectiveness. Isabella had seen Daniel hold board meetings, seen him walk through crowds with cameras, seen him act like nothing could touch him. But this was different. This was small, soft, human. Isabella didn't speak. She just walked into the room and draped a blanket over them both. Daniel opened his eyes and looked up at her. He didn't smile like a salesman. He smiled like a tired man who had been given a small mercy. "Ah, thank you," he whispered. Isabella nodded and walked back to the kitchen, before her face could betray her. That night, Lily stayed asleep longer than usual. Isabella cooked pasta because it was cheap and easy. She heard Daniel in the living room humming under his breath while he rocked Lily gently when she fussed. When Isabella brought the plates to the table, Daniel stood up right away. "I can leave," he said, like he was ready to step back if she needed him to. Isabella paused, and her hands tightened around the plates. "You can eat?" she said. Daniel froze for a second like he hadn't heard correctly. Then he nodded, slow, grateful. They sat at Isabella's small kitchen table. No lawyers, no papers, no performance. Lily slept in her bouncer near Isabella's feet. They talked about simple things, the restaurant, a new menu item, a movie Ava had forced Isabella to watch, the way Lily loved one song but cried at another. Isabella laughed once, and it slipped out before she could stop it. She caught herself, surprised by her own sound. Daniel didn't grab the moment. He didn't make it heavy. He just looked down at his plate and let the laugh exist without trying to own it. After dinner, Daniel washed dishes without being asked. Ava watched him like a guard, but even her shoulders eased a little. When it was time to put Lily to bed, Daniel stood in the hallway and waited while Isabella tucked her in. He didn't step into the nursery, and he didn't cross the line. He only watched from the doorway as Isabella kissed Lily's forehead. When Isabella turned, Daniel spoke softly. "Good night," he said. It sounded like he meant more than the words. Isabella's chest tightened again, but she held her face steady. "Good night," she replied. Daniel left a few minutes later. Ava walked into the kitchen, leaned against the counter, and studied Isabella's face. "Well?" Ava asked. Isabella stared at the sink, and at the clean plates drying on the rack, at the quiet that felt different than before. "I'm terrified," Isabella admitted. Ava nodded like that made perfect sense. "Good," she said. "Terror means it matters." Later, Isabella stood in Lily's room with the lamp dimmed low. She listened to her daughter's breathing. She thought about the day she walked into that glass tower with divorce papers and a baby asleep against her heart. She thought about what it cost to become the woman who could do that. She also thought about something else, that she did not need Daniel Whitmore. Not anymore. And that was the point. Need was a cage. Choice was freedom. If she let him back into her life, and it would not be because she was lonely, it would not be because she was weak. It would be because she was strong enough to decide with clear eyes. She turned off the lamp and went to bed. Outside, the city stayed bright and loud. People moved through the night carrying old stories and new hopes. Isabella Cole had learned something most people avoid their whole lives. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is not hold on and not let go. And sometimes the strongest thing you can do is stand in the uncertain middle, look at the risk, and choose anyway. Not because it's safe, but because a life built only on protection is just another kind of lonely cage. And Isabella was done with cages. She was just beginning to see what she might build instead. If you believe stories still matter, go ahead and hit subscribe, Stories Beyond the Porch. Drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. I love seeing how far these stories travel.